everybody.
Hi.
So we wanted to try something a little bit different as opposed to the structured home on the RNG style reviews. We wanted to talk about a video game that wasn't a jRPG.
No.
And we thought, why be fancy about it? We could just talk.
I do play other kinds of games.
He
surprisingly.
does. At least 2 other kinds.
Walking simulators.
Yes.
And
I don't have a punchline. I
point
hope you
and
do.
click adventure.
Okay.
I don't know.
So Russ requested that we do a review of Maniac Mansion.
I love Maniac Mansion.
So those of you who've watched some of my other videos, you know that I'm a big adventure game fan. I've been focusing mainly on the Sierra ones, but the LucasArts ones are not to be ignored or denied. And they started with Maniac Mansion on the computer. And then somebody ported it to the original Nintendo.
Yes.
Which,
Wasn't there a whole engine created?
Yes, they had to
Maniac
create
Mansion?
a special engine, and they had to change a lot of the game because of Nintendo's very strict policies at the time.
Yeah.
There was a nude sculpture that had to go. The engine that ran Maniac Mansion when it came out originally was called SCUM. It stands for Script Creation Utility for Maniac Mansion.
Mhm.
So when they made it for the NES, they called it SCUM NES, and Nintendo had an issue with that because it just didn't sound right.
And why wouldn't they?
So, Maniac Mansion is where it started. Also, Maniac Mansion is the first video game to ever feature cutscenes.
Really?
It's from Maniac Mansion that we actually have the term cutscene.
Interesting.
So, why don't you talk about where you first experienced this Nintendo version of the game?
Yeah, I've only played small amounts of like the PC version or whatever you would call
The original
the
version?
original version. Because I got Maniac Mansion for my birthday when I got my NES when I was maybe 7 or whatever. It was the NES that came with the Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt combo cartridge.
I had that one, but I had the one that had Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and Track and Field.
Okay, and then the other 2 games that my mom got for me were Rampage and Maniac Mansion. And I loved Maniac Mansion the best of all of those games. So that kind of started my weird taste in games. Not weird taste, but
No, weird.
liking odd games.
Yeah.
Liking not the normal stuff.
I've rented it a couple of times. I borrowed it from a friend a couple of times. I never beat it on the NES, but I did play it. And I'll say this, and this is odd for me to say, but one of the things that really stands out is the music.
Yes.
The music is really good.
I loved that each kid has like their own boombox. So you have your main character, and then you get to choose 2 other characters that accompany him into exploring this mansion, and they each have their own music. They have their own theme song that plays while you control them.
Well, and you mentioned having that's one of the unique things about Maniac Mansion that gives it more replayability than a lot of adventure games had. Is you start out with your kid, and then you get to pick 2 others from a list of kids, and they all have different abilities and skills. And there's 5 or 6 ways to beat the game, depending on who you have in your party and what they can do.
Mm-hmm. And sadly, the only kid besides Dave, who's the main character, that can't do it himself, is named Jeff. All the other kids can effectively, like, accomplish the goal, which is to save Dave's girlfriend, by themselves. But only Dave and Jeff can't do it on their own.
Yeah, so the plot is, your girlfriend has been kidnapped by a mad scientist who's going to extract her brain. You have to go into the mansion to rescue her, and along the way you find out what turned him evil, and you have to defeat that evil.
Yes.
And it's a point-and-click adventure game. You can also blow up the house a couple of different ways, which kills everything within a 5-meter radius.
Mm-hmm.
That's a game over. It's very rare to have a character killed, but there are a couple of ways
Yeah.
have a character actually die.
And I don't think, though, there are, like, what do you call it when you get locked in or you can't beat the game?
Oh, a dead end.
Yeah, I don't think that's actually possible. I think they designed it so that... Although there is a time limit, the house will blow up eventually.
Yeah. If you get all your kids killed off, you're kind of screwed.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think you can actually get all of them killed.
Weird Cousin Ed can kill one, and then you can drown any of them at any time.
That's one too.
Yeah, but if you're only left
Now
with...
we're just having an argument.
But as you pointed out, there's 2 characters who can't beat the game. So if they're the only one left...
True.
Then you can't beat the game.
I gotcha.
So it is possible to utterly dead-end yourself. It's not easy, but you can do it.
Yeah. Why would you want to? You want to save Sandy. You want to save the girlfriend.
Trying to think what else is there to talk about. There is a sequel to Maniac Mansion,
which I've never played,
called Day of the Tentacle. It's only on PC. It's worth checking out. It's a really solid adventure game that makes good use of a time travel mechanic, which is something you don't see in a lot of adventure games. So you get to have a lot of fun solving puzzles in the past to change the present. They changed a lot of stuff. Like I said, we left out the nude sculpture.
There's a nude sculpture. There's a skeleton.
Dead cousin Ted.
In the basement. But there's just a skeleton in the basement, too. And Edna, my favorite character.
They desexualized Edna for the NES game.
Edna is a nurse and Dr. Fred's creepy wife, and in the original version, she wants to do nasty things to the kids.
She doesn't do them, but she talks about wanting to.
Yeah, if she kidnaps them, but in the NES version, she's just going to call their mother.
And for me, the game is a little stressful because as you're wandering around trying to solve this thing, at any point, you could run into one of the family members who throw you in the dungeon.
Yes.
Especially Edna.
She's very fast.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible
in
to get away
theory,
from her.
If you see her, you can run and get away, but in practice, it's very uncommon to do so.
Yeah.
And for me, that's always a lot of anxiety as I'm trying to explore this mansion and solve these puzzles, knowing that at any second, you're going to the dungeon.
Yeah.
If you have 2 kids in the dungeon, they can break out of the dungeon. It's not the end of the world, but still nerve-wracking.
It is nerve-wracking.
I'm kind of surprised you love it as much as you do, considering the amount of stress and anxiety that's built into that factor.
Yeah. It was... Edna scared... when I was a kid playing this game, Edna scared me to death.
That's a reasonable reaction.
There's one section where you have to sneak into her bedroom to do something.
Well, you can call her out of the bedroom if you get the for a good time call. But they left that out of the NES version too. It doesn't say for a good time call. It just says Edna.
Yeah. But it was so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It was just nerve-wracking. So it was, in a real rudimentary way, it was kind of scary. It was kind of like all the horror games that we have now. When you're 8 or whatever, and you're playing that, and NES is the most current technology that exists, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, it was. It still gives me some anxiety. It still makes me nervous. And not just because it's scary, but because for me, I got a plan. I'm working on something here. And it can be derailed at any second by getting that character thrown in a dungeon, and then you got to go to one of the other 2 characters and try and pick up the plan where it left off, whatever you're trying to do. I don't know.
So who's your favorite kid?
Bernard.
Yeah.
Because he's the most useful.
Yes. And I love that. The nerd, the pocket protector, glasses nerd, is the most useful character.
I kind of like Razor, too, though.
Yeah.
She's one of the musicians.
Mm-hmm. She has her own punk band called Razor and the Scumettes.
Yes. And that girl can rock a piano.
She can.
So, as we mentioned, it has some really great music. So right here, I'll go ahead and just give you a taste of the opening theme. So there you go. That's just a little bit of the opening music to give you a sense of the music we're talking about here. It's really impressive for the era.
Very.
I actually remember when I was a kid and I had rented this, I actually had a tape recorder. I actually recorded some of the music from the game. when I was a little kid because that's the only way I could hear it again, and I liked it. I thought it was good music. So there you go, Maniac Mansion. It's available in a lot of different formats. They've done a remastered version. I'm sure if you go to Good Old Games or Steam or emulate it on the NES.
Yeah.
A lot of the actual content of the game doesn't really change in terms of how you play it, depending on what version you have.
Right. It's just the humor.
Yeah.
Is less dark if you play the NES version.
So there can be your guide for how to pick what you want to play. And so for our next informal review, I've asked that we do a game that I grew up loving.
Mm-hmm.
A Boy and His Blob.
Oh, and I've never played A Boy and His Blob. I've never played the original one. I played the Wii version where you just hug the blob, or that's all I do.
So
it should be fun.
Yeah, so we have A Boy and His Blob to look forward to. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.